How do you stop yourself from buying multiple copies of the same comic book? You can't. Hey there, today I have an unboxing video, and in this video I'm going to open up an order that I placed with Atomic Avenue several months ago. It's a pretty substantial order of about 38 comics. And this order, while not really unique or really all that different from other orders that I've placed in the past, really great back issues, mostly Marvel, things like that. What's interesting to me about this order is what I ended up doing is once I found a book that I wanted to buy, I tried to figure out if this seller had multiple copies. And if they did, I went ahead and picked them up. And in the past, what I've really tried to do is locate that one single copy of the book, purchase it, receive it, grade it, add it to my collection, really figure out, is this the highest quality condition version of this specific issue. And then if I wasn't satisfied for whatever reason, maybe it came back in a little bit of a worse condition than I thought, or I graded it a little bit lower than the seller had graded it, then I would go and try and find it again. And I would often repeat this process several times where I was buying the same book from Mile High Comics, from Midtown or other places, eBay, anywhere really that I could find the book. And then the orders just became kind of strange because I was like, I keep buying the same books over and over again. Why do I do that? And then I have to remember, I'm trying to upgrade this particular book. And not that it was really wasting a lot of time, but if I wanted to focus on acquiring one specific book, I could have just bought all of the copies I could find all at once, then take a look at however many copies I've received, and then, pick out the best condition out of the group. And then just decide, do I want to send it in to CGC or what do I want to do with it? But for whatever reason, I had a difficult time placing orders where I was ordering 3 or 4 copies of the same book. So this specific order is an example of that. And with it being this many books, I don't think I'm going to take a lot of them out and grade them here during this unboxing. But I'm curious to know what your strategy is really acquiring that one single copy or that one single issue of the book. Is that enough to sort of satisfy you as a collector? Or if you do have sort of a list of books that you're targeting, do you feel like I will always and forever get as many copies of this book as I can? There's part of me that as I look through bins, I love the complete runs or my attempts to complete a run. And it's very satisfying to go through and see them in number order, especially if it's a classic run of some sort, whether it's a storyline or a run of creator-driven value comics or whatever it is. And then if I compare that to a bin where maybe say I have 5 or 10 copies of the same book, part of me wonders, what was I thinking? Why did I have so many? Especially if the book didn't really pan out in terms of collectability, then I feel like I'm kind of stuck with it. And do I sell them off as a lot? So I kind of go back and forth. Now, certainly if you have a major, strong, valuable key book and you've got multiple copies, then great. Then you're doing it right. And you've got some options there in terms of trying to recuperate cost, grading books, and you've got, great options. But it's difficult to really get a dozen versions of a Silver Age key in high grade. But I feel like as a collector, even though it makes more financial sense to basically kind of hone in on a specific key and try and get multiples, the collector inside of me just feels like it's weird to have so many versions of the same comic. So I want to go ahead and unbox this and kind of show you some of the books I got. If you stay to the end, I'll show you kind of a summary of the order, what I paid for the books. And with this order being from a few months ago, we can kind of see how has the market shifted on the fair market value, reported fair market value of these books in raw condition, and then also what is the potential if I were to get some of them graded. So let's get this order unboxed and see what I got. Okay, here is the package that I received from Atomic Avenue seller Parman. He's also known as Rocky Mountain Books. I was attacked here by the media mail monster, but again, everything was received securely, and it was not opened by the post office, so it's all good. So let me go ahead and get this opened up. All right, I think I did it. I think I finally broke through. So I know they went pretty fast, but essentially what the seller had done is he took two of his regular sized boxes that he normally packs comics in, and then packed the two orders, and then just taped the whole thing up, and then slapped a media mail label on it. The good news is everything inside was packed super securely. Actually, took me quite a while to break through all of the bubble wrap and tape. So really appreciate the effort there to pack the order to make sure that the books arrived in the condition that I bought them in without any sort of in-transit damage. All right, so let's get through these books and see. There's these two stacks out of the two bricks, and let's see what I ordered here. So these will be multiples, and so let's start here. This is Marvel Comics Presents number 73. I buy a lot of these, featuring Barry Windsor Smith art and the Weapon X storyline. I do believe there's more to the Weapon X program and story that can be done in the MCU. But regardless, these are really great value buys. The Marvel Comics Presents. Yeah, there's the recent clandestine issues, and there are other Marvel Comics Presents that have a little bit of value. But for the most part, this is a very, very affordable series, and there's like 3 or 4 storylines going on in each book. So I'd like to pick up these with the Weapon X, and there's quite a few of these in this order. Here's one more. This one's really terribly misrepped, but again, the point is, let's get all 3 at once, compare them, pick out the best copies, send those off to CGC, and then have the others as backup copies or reader copies. So they are kind of out of order here. This one I only got one of. This is Iron Man 155. Love picking up these older Bronze Age Iron Mans. This is the very famous issue with the tank on the cover. No, I don't know. It's not. I mean, there is a tank, but it's not a famous issue. But with this particular seller in the past, I will always get some books that are in the near mint minus range, I think, on average, but a lot of candidates for pressing and improvement. I do notice there's a bit of a corner issue there where there's a fold, so it's unfortunate there. But just some general spine creasing that comes out with a standard quick press. So I like to get books from this particular seller like that. Here's some more Iron Man goodness. Here's Iron Man 145. Great looking book there. Again, just very few spine ticks, if at all. Great condition there. This particular seller I buy from often. Now, I will say the top does have some fading in there. I think if it's a modern book, you're calling it color rub. But here's Iron Man 119. Great John Romita Jr. cover. Love the perspective on this one. Looks to be in great shape. So glad I got that. So I'm always on the lookout for those Iron Man books. Here's Fantastic Four 347. Let's see. I got 3 copies of this one. This is, I believe, the first appearance of the quote-unquote new Fantastic Four. It was a storyline featuring Ghost Rider, Hulk, Spider-Man, and Wolverine. And again, lots of really good value. This is a team that just recently Marvel put out a limited series with that team. But yeah, just grabbing multiple copies here, really, really cheap at the time. Figured why not? Instead of buying these one off, let's just get them all at once. Fantastic Four 285 is the next one up. And this one I got, goodness, five. Got 5 copies of this one. You'll notice one of them is a newsstand. Sometimes the sellers break them apart as variants, and then other times they don't. So this particular seller listed 285 essentially twice, and then in the description, which is kind of embedded on Atomic Avenue, it's not really clear. It's not really a specific item that you can actually see in the results. It's not like when you see all the variants, it doesn't say 285 direct, 285 newsstand. It just says 285. It's up to the individual sellers if they want to break them out as a variant. I do notice on the newsstand there's something right in there that's not on the others. So I don't know if that's a bit of dirt or something that's to be wiped off. But one newsstand, 4 direct on this one. I'm not sure about the newsstand direct breakdown at this specific time. It's probably roughly 50-50 anyway, so it doesn't matter to me. But again, I'll go over the numbers and what I paid for these at the end, but just really, really great burn. Fantastic Four at an affordable price with some upside for grading. Same goes for this one. Let's see. I got 2 copies of Amazing Spider-Man 350. What I love about this specific book is it's an example of a double-sized issue. And I think over time, double-sized issues, they don't really give you any extra value. Like there's no additional collectability where you'd say, oh, well, it's kind of a minor key, but it's a double-sized issue, so it's worth more. That collectors don't really care. It's really just about scarcity and story and significance of the book. This one's great. It's the 350th anniversary issue. It is double-sized. It has Doctor Doom. Cover art by Eric Larson. All right, a few DC books in here. This one is Adventures of Superman 497. This is the storyline with Doomsday leading up to the death of Superman in Superman 75. So this is sort of setting the stage, setting up the character of Doomsday. A lot of the Doomsday-related books have been, very quietly picking up some value. And I think there's some nostalgia going back and maybe trying to collect all of these in a 9.8 or something like that. But again, I'm just looking for value from the raw book perspective with the potential for grading. And I see a couple of these have staple pushes, which now I'm on the lookout for because I realized that is something that CGC marks you down with. My ASM 210 had a really bad staple push and dropped it all the way to a 9.2. So I am on the lookout for that. And I know it could just be a manufacturing thing, but it is also an indicator of a book being overpressed. So I think that they just say, well, we can't really tell, so we're going to ding you. This particular seller always likes to throw in an extra book, and I appreciate that. Here's Batman Beyond number 12. So I didn't order this one. It was a free book. I don't know much about it other than I believe it is targeted more like you typically see these books in like a kids section. So sometimes these are harder to find in high grade. This isn't a 9.8 copy, but always appreciate a free comic being thrown in. And a book like this too, they're great to practice pressing on. So I appreciate that. All right, let me move this one aside. Get to the next stack. More McFarlane goodness. Spider-Man number 3. I buy these from Atomic Avenue and eBay every chance I get. And these look to be pretty good shape. And if you're a McFarlane hunter, you love this run of Spider-Man, maybe you're trying to get all these in a 9.8. It's a very, very affordable collector hunt or mission to try and get these. They're so plentiful, the supply is so high that it kind of makes it fun to buy multiple copies of this at very, very low prices and then pick out, sort of cherry pick the high grades for yourself out of your own collection and send those 9.8s off for grading. So Spider-Man number 3, couple copies there. Same thing we've got going here. Spider-Man number 10, looks like I got one of these. Love these couple of Spider-Man books that have Wolverine in them. It's really great to see McFarlane on Wolverine any chance you can get. All right, I picked up another copy of Spider-Man 13. This was one reason why I wanted to open up this order. right behind me, right there, is a book that I just got back from CGC in a 9.6. I was certain it was a 9.8 and wanted to go ahead and take another chance at it. So I ordered this one. And I'll take this one out for grading. Hopefully it is a 9.8. This was the most expensive book in the order. This was I would say just kind of a not a dollar bin type of order, but a lot of very, very cheap and affordable books. This one was the most expensive one in the order. Love this. Trying to get all of these Spider-Man 1 related or homage covers in a nice 9.8 set. So I'm going to keep picking this up, and hopefully one of them hits at that 9.8. All right, Spider-Man 26. Let's see, how crazy did I go with this? Okay, just semi-crazy. Got 3 copies of this one. This one is graded a 9.8 if you can get it, but it's tough because the hologram here gets scratched. So this one, I'm looking at it, looks pretty solid there in the light, but then the next one, it has a scratch on it. You can pick it up, but not quite. But I could tell here it is scratched a little bit. So is this one, just some stuff in the middle, and that's part of the grading evaluation that the professional graders put this book through, along with standard, spine checks and things like that. So it's one of those where, people say it's a tough book, but that's the whole point, is you can find books like this that are quite inexpensive, that have a lot of upside because they are tough books. So you're able to buy multiple copies and assess them and kind of roll the dice there. All right, so back to Marvel Comics Presents with the Weapon X storyline. I think I got 3 copies of issue 74. Really awesome Barry Windsor Smith art and colors here. Just great. Really, really awesome. So 3 copies of 74. I've got some more coming here. This one is tough. This is 76. 3 copies of this one. You can probably see right away why this one is valuable in a 9.8. The black background really makes it tough, but I see this one does have a couple of spine ticks there. These 2 look pretty good. That one has one at the bottom. Front one has a little bit of spine creasing, non-color. That might be clicking. Yep, right there. So again, you kind of roll the dice with this. Doesn't set you back too much to take a chance and get that one. But moving on, here's 78. Marvel Comics Presents 78. And then I got multiple copies of 80. No, I got 1 copy of 80. They looked similar. And then 82. Just keep grabbing these in hopes that the Weapon X storyline gets presented in the MCU in proper fashion. Oh, here's one left over. I guess I got 4 of these, 3 or 4 of these. Spider-Man number 3. And then the last book, Silver Surfer number 50. This one's great. It has the silver embossed cover. Again, just like the hologram books, these are likely to be scratched. And again, the scratches count against the grade. But there are quite a few of these around this time when you're getting into the 90s variants and the creative ways that publishers tried to entice collectors to buy books. Silver Surfer with silver in the title was just a no-brainer. I believe 75, Silver Surfer 75, also features an embossed cover. But really great. Thanos, Silver Surfer, great stuff. So those are the comics. Let's take a look at what I paid for this order and compare the raw values to what I paid for them, and then also show you kind of what these books would look like if they were grading in terms of value. Okay, here is the order breakdown for this 38 book order that I placed with Atomic Avenue back in mid-February 2022 that I just got around to opening. It was a $108.45 order, so a lot of comics for a little over $100. One thing I noted as I was just reviewing the packing slip is I also ordered Invaders 22. The seller said not available and put in Iron Man 119, and I was like, that does seem weird. I thought I'd only ordered 2 Iron Man books from the seller. So I'll have to update this real quick, but just wanted to point out I did order Invaders 22. Okay, I see what happened. So he refunded $775 and then threw in an Iron Man book, which was very cool. Iron Man 119. That's awesome. So I do appreciate that. And again, you're kind of building up a rapport with some of these sellers, which is something I like to do. And sellers that don't treat you right, you end up not buying from them and moving on. So let me get this one updated. Okay, so I updated this row. Just made a note there that Iron Man 119 was a replacement for Invaders 22. I changed the amount to 0. So we'll see how that plays out. It has a fair market value of a little under $4, so not a big book, but a nice gesture to refund my money and also include another comic. Really appreciate that. That was very nice. So the updated total is $100.70 after that book was refunded. Still a total of 38. I'll add the other free book in there later. To me, it's sort of like a free comic book day. I just sort of set it aside and practice pressing with it. Don't really count it as part of my collection. At any rate, let's compare this to what I paid. There was no shipping, no tax on this one. I did unlock free shipping, and I'm not charged tax on Atomic Avenue. So if I compare the total cost value to what was on my invoice, they add up just to make sure that I have the total cost of each book put in the system or put in my system correctly at any rate. Now, let's compare the total fair market value of these books against the total cost, and that is column AA, which I'm calling raw value. So for this particular order, I added $118.50 of value to my collection. And what I mean by value is simply after I remove the cost to acquire the book and then I compare it to the fair market value of the book, I've added an additional $118.50. So in total, it's roughly $219.20 of value that I've put into my comic book collection entirely, but I always subtract my cost because I want to see, if I'm being smart in buying books under fair market value or with the potential to grow, things like that. So that's what that means. So for the most part, these were all winners, lots of nice gains on these. Spider-Man 13 pretty much paid right around fair market value. I paid $16 for that book, and it's currently has a raw value of $15.74. Let me see if there were any other significant. Iron Man 145 overpaid $6.25, and it is a $3.14 book. But all in all, pretty good. Everything that I bought was either just right around fair market value or had a very, very tiny minimal gain, 90 cents on these Fantastic Fours, for example, $1 for the Adventures of Superman. So right around fair market value. Some of them were almost double, which was kind of cool, paying for Marvel Comics Presents, paying about $3 for those, and the fair market value is $6. So again, those don't have a lot of attention on them, but are really classic Marvel stories and great Barry Windsor Smith art on. So that's the way it looks from a fair market value perspective. So a few dollars here and there for each book, which was really great. That's how that number shot up to basically doubling my value, my investment. And really all that means is if I were to take all of these books individually, photograph them, put them out on the internet for sale, do a live claim sale, right? Not tell you what condition it is or do something crazy. I would stand to gain about $100. So I get my money back plus 100, which anytime you can double your money, it's a good thing. Now, the reason I do this too is not to do what I just said and have a claim sale and flip books. That's not what I do. What I really try and curate my collection and really, really identify the highest grades of these books, try and get those in for professional grading, and then leave the lesser copies raw in my personal collection. And really, that's just kind of how I collect. So let's take a look and see what these books would be if they were sent into CGC. So right now I have the CGC value set to 0. So if these books did have some value in a 9.4, which if you're buying books as near mint, then you kind of have to expect them to be around 9.4. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in for all of these. And if they were a 9.4, there's not much CGC value in these books slabbed officially as a 9.4. You could see it if I sent all of the books that had a value in column V, After grading fees and shipping and all of that, I would only gain $23.27. So that's where I need to take the time and really grade each book, because I don't want to just blindly send all of these in and do like a 9.4 pre-screen, because even that, if they did roll back at a 9.4, there's really not a ton of value here. Now, the ceiling, however, which is what I'm hoping for, if these books are 9.8, I know they're not all 9.8. This is really just kind of for fun to see what would this order max out as. We know some of those Marvel Comics Presents books had some spine ticks, so probably closer to the 9.4 or 9.2. But if they were all a 9.8, this order has $2,325.27 worth of comic books in here. And what I like to do here is, just because it's easy to see, look at those books that have a CGC value of $100 and above, because that really, when you start to think about what it really costs to acquire books and send them in for grading, fees and shipping and so forth, you can just sort of estimate it's going to cost you somewhere between $25 and $50 a book. So if you don't have a precise number of what it costs to grade each book that you're sending in, you can kind of ballpark it and say 25 to 50, depending on how fast you want it back. And it's actually closer to maybe $33 or $34 in terms of your cost to get it graded. But just to kind of keep the math easy, I'm just saying, $25 to $50, and then it's easy to eyeball here in the spreadsheet books that have a CGC 9.8 value of $100 or above. So if we look at Spider-Man 13, it was the most expensive book to acquire at $16, and it has a CGC value of $128 in a 9.8. Now compare that to Marvel Comics Presents number 80, where it only cost me $1.20 to acquire, and it has a 9.8 value of $118. Now, of course, 13 is more desirable, for McFarlane collectors, or for those collectors that are doing something like me, where you're trying to get the Spider-Man 1 related or homage covers. You could see why that one's a bit more valuable, and it's more well known, right? So I talk about that too, like books that books that a lot of people know, they're always going to have value, because even if the supply is high, there's always some sort of built-in demand for a book like that. Marvel Comics Presents, however, demand's not going to be that high, but there's the value in a 9.8 there anyway. Silver Surfer number 50, over $100 there in a 9.8. More Marvel Comics Presents, number 74 was a $2.25 purchase. It has a $105 value in a 9.8. So again, great upside there. And even that Adventures of Superman 497, you could say, well, it's mass produced, Death of Superman. It costs $2.50 each for $104 of potential value in a 9.8. That Fantastic Four 285, I bought 5 copies, $220 each for the direct, $245 for that one newsstand. It's $100 in a 9.8. So those are the kind of books I look for. The most expensive one here, or the most valuable, I should say, $140 for that Amazing Spider-Man 350. That's that double-sized issue with Doctor Doom. It costs $3.75 to acquire, and it is more valuable than Spider-Man 13. So it'd be one of those sort of guessing games where if I held up 2 books and you're looking at it and I'm telling you, and I ask you which book is more valuable in a 9.8, I would probably guess that Spider-Man 13 is way more valuable. I would even maybe argue it's somewhere between $150 and $200, and there it is sitting at around $120, whereas that ASM 350 is $140. Those are the books that I really like to target. Those books that have really sneaky value in a 9.8. It really is supply and demand. There's a lot of Spider-Man 13 in a 9.8. Probably not as many, I would imagine, of ASM 350. Certainly not of those Marvel Comics Presents books. So it's really about timing, scarcity, supply and demand, basic economics, but it's also just an understanding of the data. And that's what I love to track here. I love to find those books, but it's really just kind of my philosophy on collecting comics is not so much the buy low, sell high philosophy, but really like buy low raw, and find those books that are of high quality condition that have that upside when they're professionally graded. And I feel like this order has a number of those examples. And I'd love to know, again, what your strategy is in terms of when you find these books. Do you just want to grab them all as a stack and buy multiple copies? There's a couple theories in my head around that. It's like, number one, it gives you the best opportunity, the best chance that one of those will be a 9.8. Or on the other hand, if you're buying from the same collector, are they treating the books the same way? Are they caring for them? I feel like, especially if you go to a convention and you see those dollar bins and you kind of know the sellers I'm talking about, you just sort of look at their setup and you just know this person did not care for their collection. So is it worth it really to grab a stack of Fantastic Four 285 and just say, well, I'm sure one of these is a 9.8? You're probably assuming that they're all beat up. Same thing for online. Like if I feel like there's a worthwhile seller, I do believe that if I'm buying one of their books and it comes back in as a 9.8 candidate, then the other books probably are 9.8 candidates as well. I just kind of go back and forth on that. So love to get your feedback if you want to leave some comments on how you approach buying multiples from the same seller, buying singles, completing runs, just kind of what your general philosophy is. Like I said, if there's key books, like I'd love to have 12 copies of Giant Size X-Men #1. I'm not saying that's not a good idea. But in terms of these books where they're non-keys, $1 to $5 comics, do you end up saving time? Is it more worth your while to buy multiple copies, or are you satisfied with that single copy and trying to complete a run? So leave me a comment, let me know. Thanks for watching, happy collecting, and see you next time.